Hi there, you're watching Market Cafe on ET Now with me, Shreyansi Singh. And over the next few minutes, I'll get you news and updates from within the country as well as across the globe, tell you which stocks you should be keeping on your radar, and tell you what the brokerages are saying as well. But first things first, let's take a look at the handover coming in from the Wall Street. But before we do that, quick note that the trading is expected to be relatively muted during the week. The New York Stock Exchange, in fact, closes early on Tuesday for Christmas Eve at 1 p.m. ET, that is, and the market is also shut on Christmas Day. You do have the tech-heavy nasdaq composite that gained 1%, the Dow Jones Industrial Average that added 1.2%, while the S&P 500 rose 1.1%, but the rebound was not enough to overcome losses earlier in the week. All three major averages, in fact, finished the week lower. So when you take a look at the nasdaq, that gave up 1.8%, while the Dow and the S&P 500 also both shared around 2% coming in. Now, after a tumultuous week, you do have the market that is awaiting a so-called Santa Claus rally, that may help the market end 2024 on a high note. So that is largely what is being penciled in at this point, of course. You did have, of course, stocks recoup losses. So in terms of daily moves, you did have the Dow Jones higher by 500 points. Just wanted to quickly mark that before I tell you that the second half of December, of course, is also typically the second strongest period of the year for US equities. So that is also something that investors are eyeing. And in terms of the month-to-date move that we've seen coming in, for all three averages, you have the 30-stock Dow that is down 4.6% in December, while the S&P 500 is off 1.7%. Even when you take a look at the tech-heavy nasdaq composite on your screens, that's also bucked the downtrend, rising 1.8% this month. That is the one that we should take note of. So that's largely the kind of handover that we have at least coming in for Wall Street, and even the kind of expectations that we have for the Santa Claus rally. But let's also take a quick check on what the oil prices did then, because oil prices were little changed largely at their settle as markets weighed Chinese demand as well as interest rate cut expectations. After data also showed cooling US inflation. Now, Chinese demand and tepid Chinese demand, in fact, is something that the market has been taking a look at for a while now, for the last month or so. And you do also have interest rate cut expectations that have been largely on the radar for oil prices as well. But when you take a look at the moves coming in for Brent as well as WTI, Brent crude futures closed up just 6 cents, or about 0.1%, around that $72 a barrel mark. And when you take a look at US WTI as well, an uptick of just about 8 cents coming in there as well, 0.1% uptick, mirroring the kind of moves that Brent also saw. $69 per barrel is the kind of level that you're looking at when you take a look at US WTI as well. And in fact, both benchmarks on a weekly basis ended the week down by about 2.5%. So that's the kind of handover that you have. Similar moves coming in on a daily as well as weekly basis for both the benchmarks. And you also have the US dollar that's also retreated from a 2-year high after data also showed cooling US inflation 2 days after the Federal Reserve cut interest rates. But you also have a trimming of the outlook for rate cuts next year. That is something that the market is also keeping an eye on, and a weaker dollar, of course, makes oil cheaper for holders of other currencies, while rate cuts also spur economic growth and boost oil demand. So definitely something that the market is keeping an eye on. And in terms of other news and updates, time now to get you a quick check going on what the Asia Pacific markets are doing. Now, Asia Pacific markets started the holiday shortened Christmas week on a positive note, with investors awaiting an official announcement related to the merger of Japanese automakers Honda and Nissan. When you take a look at Japan's Nikkei, that's the one that's clutching on to that shade of green on your screens as well. 0.9% uptick coming in for that one. Even Australia's ASX 200 is firmly in the green at this point. An uptick of over 1% coming in for that one. And Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index also is the one that is rising just about 0.5% thereabout, currently up about 0.4% as we speak as well. Let's also take a quick look at Shanghai, because that is the one on the downside. In fact, on the upside rather, up this marginally. It's just flipping between green and red as we speak. South Korea's Kospi, though, is clutching on to a tinge of red as we speak. 0.6% downtick coming in for that one as well. Now back home, of course, we shut shop around 23,580. And currently what is being penciled in is a good start, is a gap-up start, and it looks like Santa rally is awaited even for markets back home. But with that, let's get a quick check going then on the events that you should then be watching out for. Now from the US, you do have conference board consumer confidence data as well. And from the UK, there's GDP data that we're watching out for. So that largely is the kind of event roundup that you have in terms of global cues. But let's get you a quick check going on corporate action then, because there's IFL Finance board that will be mulling fundraise, so even that counter will remain in focus. And other than that, it's the last day to buy shares to be eligible for interim dividend when it comes to Vedanta. So even that stock, keep an eye on that one. And from the primary market, there's subscription that is closing for DAM Capital Advisors. So even that one will remain in focus. And there's been a lot of primary market action. So no surprise there that we'll definitely be keeping an eye on DAM Capital Advisors as well. But on to some key macro data points from the United States then. Consumer spending for the month of November increased amid strong demand, underscoring the economy's resilience. Consumer spending, which accounts for more than two-thirds of US economic activity, in fact rose 0.4% last month after a downwardly revised 0.3% gain coming in October. Then when adjusted for inflation, consumer spending rose 0.3% after edging up 0.1% in October. Now the so-called real consumer spending is running at an annualized rate of 3.1% in the first 2 months of the fourth quarter. So that's a quick check going on the PCE data that we have. US PCE spending robust in November. So that's the update on that front. But time for a very quick break on that note. When we come back, more news and updates on the other side. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned into Market Cafe. Let's shift focus then to the big talking point, the 55th GST Council meeting. And let's tell you what's cheaper and what's costlier than the GST Council, in a bid to promote the sales of new EVs, has in fact decided to raise the tax rate of used cars, which also includes used EVs, to 18% from the current 12%. However, this is only for used cars by businesses. Private individuals can sell such used cars without attracting the GST also. Meanwhile, you do have GST on fortified rice kernels used for public distribution that has been cut to 5% from 18% earlier. AAC, or autoclaved aerated concrete blocks with 50% fly ash, will also be attracting a 12% GST rate. Among other exemptions, you also have penal charges imposed by banks and NBFCs on borrowers and payment aggregators. And on the flip side then, however, many states did not agree on bringing aviation turbine fuel under the GST ambit, since it was a part of the crude petroleum diesel basket. Now that had been something that everybody had been talking about. Thus, GST was not imposed on it for the time being, and the decision has been deferred, and no panel will be appointed for this issue as well. Now, ATF has also been kept out of the one nation, one tax regime. Additionally, no decision has also been taken to impose GST on quick commerce and e-commerce and food delivery platforms. Then the council in fact has also deferred the decision to reduce the GST rate on insurance premiums due to pending comments of the regulator. So that's the latest update in terms of what's cheaper and what's costlier when it comes to the 55th GST Council meeting. But tell you what, my colleague Sumit Chaturvedi also caught up with a host of ministers. Let's go across and listen into their reaction post this meet then.
कहा है कि हेल्थ प्रीमियम पर जो सीनियर सिटीज़न हैं और जीएसटी उनके लिए माफ़ है, और जो 5 लाख रुपए तक के इंश्योरेंस रखने वाले लोग हैं उनको भी माफ़। मैंने कहा है कि साहब, जो आम लोग हैं जो इस दोनों कैटेगरी में नहीं आते हैं, नॉन सीनियर सिटीज़न हैं, उनको भी 18% जीएसटी से घटा के 5%।
But it couldn't happen, sir. हो नहीं पाया. Why couldn't it happen?
अब देखिए, जीएसटी काउंसिल में ये बात रखी गई है, काउंसिल की बैठक में ये लोग डिसाइड करेंगे, डेफिनेटली उस पर विचार करके एक निर्णय तो लेंगे ही लोग।
पर इस बार नहीं हो पाया. It couldn't happen this time, and is the reason?
हाँ, इस बार तो नहीं हुआ, लेकिन एक समय देते हैं, हर 3 महीने पे एक बार मीटिंग होती है, तो अगले मीटिंग का इंतजार कर लें।
Sir, on that food delivery apps, ATF, all this was discussed or not, sir?
हाँ, नहीं, इस पर कोई डिस्कशन नहीं हुआ।
Sir, can you just give us a minute, sir? What all could be discussed and what couldn't be taken up, sir?
No, everything was taken up. Some things were agreed on, some things were deferred. For some of the issues, groups of ministers have been constituted, but that's normal. This is my first meeting, so I wouldn't be able to tell you how different this was from past meetings. But what
was your key ask?
Well, our worry was based more on public speculation than on the agenda. There had been a lot of speculation that GST on shawls, particularly Pashmina shawls, was going to be hiked. So we had come prepared to ensure that that wouldn't happen. Thankfully, it wasn't taken up, and we will also ensure that in the future also something like this is not considered, because it would be life-threatening to our Pashmina shawl industry.
There were many, I think other states had many other issues. Some said that the coverage has to be extended. Then there were many issues.
And life
so that
insurance?
will be the life and health both taken together.
And any decision that has been taken at all by the council?
No, not on these aspects, but there are many other aspects on which
Any key
decision.
ones from there?
On electric.
It's not touching the common people, but yet there are many aspects on which the council has taken decision.
All right, then moving on, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman also chaired the all-important pre-budget consultations with state finance ministers in Jaisalmer. In fact, numerous suggestions were brought into focus. State finance ministers demanded more funds under the 50-year interest-free loan scheme. Financially stressed states, the likes of Punjab and Kerala, also demanded special packages as well as flexibility in borrowing, and the states also demanded additional funds under the Jal Jeevan Mission along with higher borrowing limits to support fiscal activities. You did also have Maharashtra that reportedly has asked for funds for the Mukhyamantri Maji Ladki Bahin Yojana, and that's also something that the expectations were ripe around, and that anticipated sort of demand has also been tabled when it comes to the pre-budget consultations as well. Now, in terms of what else has been asked for, states stress the need for road development as well as railway projects. So that's also an important update coming in, and there's also been a highlighted need for additional funds for disaster relief. But that's largely the kind of roundup that we had coming in terms of that pre-budget consultation. Make time now to get you a quick check going on the stocks that you should be keeping on your radar, and Jenna is standing by with just that list. Jenna, over to you.
Well, definitely. Let's start up with Ultratech Siemens. CCI have unconditionally approved the primary acquisition open offer for India Siemens. Moving on, Indian Oil. The company's board has approved investment within JV. This is for a NEON project consisting of 900 TPD continuous polymerization. Now, for this JV, the total share of Indian oil contribution will be about 657 crores. Moving on, NTPC Green Energy, this will be in focus as the company has signed an MOU with government of Bihar. This MOU basically outlines an infrastructure and framework for significant investment in the state of Bihar for renewable projects energy. Also moving on, from the pharma space, Fortis Healthcare will be in focus. Company has acquired a 7.6% stake in Agilis Diagnostic from International Finance Corp. Now, this is a total cash consideration deal at a share price of 719.2 per share, with the total consideration standing at 430 crores. Moving on, Laurus Labs will be in focus as F Prime Capital and 8 Road Ventures have together invested a sum of 120 crores in subsidiary of Laurus Labs named as Laurus Bio Private Limited. Moving on, Aurobindo Pharma, that's another stock that will be in focus as Cora TQ Biologics, the step down a subsidiary of the company, has gotten approval from UK's MHRDA for a certain biosimilar which is for oncology. And lastly, Zomato, keep your eyes on that as it will replace JSW still in Sensex 30 from today.
Thanks, Jenny. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on all of those counters that you've just highlighted for us. But with that, completely out of time on this edition of Market Cafe on ET Now, from me, Shreyansi Singh, as well as the entire team that put this show together. Thank you so much for tuning in, but you don't go anywhere because the market takes all of the action forward.